I'm very pleased to welcome Mr. Shauzab Ali. He is the Commissioner at SECP, and I believe he is already online. Mr. Shauzab, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Deep. Good morning. Good morning to everyone in Pakistan and outside Pakistan. So it is a pleasure to talk to this session. So I think very nice introduction given by our colleague. So just to sort of start from a high level and just to give a view that where we stand in terms of the size of our economy and what is the market capitalization of our capital markets and what are the saving rates of the country, and then how it, in the overall macro scenario, how the things will sort of mesh in. The total size of our economy is, in terms of rupees, it is about 38 trillion, and in terms of dollars, it's about $235 billion. So it is in sort of mid-tier, and we are really sort of promising to take off since long, but we have not done that. But now I think it is opportune time that we should actually capitalize that, and considering the fact that if we can do that, in about 5 to 10 years, we can see ourselves graduating to the next level, and we can target top 20, 25 countries also. Because considering the size of the area on which the country is, size of the population, and immense potential within our population. So for us, I think HR is our biggest weapon, if you really ask me. Our HR, our location, we are located in the economies which are next to India and China, which about 150 years ago, they were about 50% of the total world GDP. And right now, China is the largest economy and India is the fourth largest economy. So we are there in the happening region. Then we are next to countries like Central Asia and Russia and China. So we have a lot of opportunities on the macro level. Our next challenge is, because I'm seeing this market for the last about 25 years, there are only 531 companies which are listed. And there are about 250,000 investors, retail investors in this country, and number is not increasing for the last about 10 or 12 years. Or even if it is increasing, the growth is very minuscule. If we compare ourselves to countries like, for example, Bangladesh, which started very late in terms of capital market, their retail investors are now touching around 3 million. So you can well imagine that how and where we are in terms of our. So when we compare ourselves in terms of our GDP to saving ratio, saving to GDP ratios, we are probably one of the lowest in the world. So again, there is always ways to look at it. I think for us to look at it is important is that obviously we need to enhance that, but simultaneously that there lies a huge opportunity for us. So the second thing which I think is important to understand for us, because our economy has a lot of formalization challenge. There is a lot of informal economy, and informal economy, then again there are two elements to that. One element is obviously the size and scale of the businesses, which is small and they can't afford, and there are a lot of documentation challenges, both in terms of meeting government requirements and all of them, and then lack of capacity and all those issues. And obviously they involve cost. But then there are certain elements which in terms of social wealth and all that. So based on that, I think the other important thing, which rather two very important things which has happened in last about 12 to 18 months in this country is there's a drive towards formalization of economy, and that is again supported and pushed and accelerated by international pressure also, which is coming through FATF, which is actually disruptive also, which is in line with what technology is doing with the world, but this is also again disruptive. The formal business model, which the way people used to do business in this country at the mid-tier, high and upper tier level, has changed significantly, or will change significantly, because the usual and the normal business models are now being challenged due to this documentation issue. Second thing which has happened is again this COVID thing. In COVID, we have realized that how through technology we can interact with each other without any interruption to our normal business. We can use we can work remotely, we can make payments remotely. We can do businesses remotely. So that is fundamentally changing the things in this country. And one thing I would like to share with all my technology colleagues is that in terms of capital markets, what Pakistan has achieved during this COVID is something which is very, I think, satisfying for us. Is that during COVID days, if we compare our market to regional market, I mean our stock market, our PSX Pakistan Stock Exchange, if we compare it with other regional markets, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, these markets were closed due to COVID pressure. But in our market, we never closed the market, not even for a single day, single hour. And that was only possible due to the availability of technology, which significantly reduced footfall before the actual event happened. And most of our infrastructure institutions, NCCPL and CDC, which are the clearing houses for us, and the trading engine, which is PSX, all three of them were able to, few of them, one or two of them were actually working completely remotely from home. So, and this one organization, which was about 10% of its total strength, but the systems work seamlessly. So that was a great promise, and that was acknowledged locally and internationally by other markets also. And that will go a long way in terms of establishing the credibility of our markets. And again, technology came into play in that area. So if we again see other areas, we have very low penetration in terms of insurance, we have very low penetration in terms of capital markets, our listings are low. So all these factors which I've mentioned to you, so I think they actually now provide a unique opportunity for us, in the sense that all these lines are now converging in terms of pushing us forward, because there's a formalization drive in terms of international environment, then there's a use of technology due to the environment related to COVID and all things, and then there's a growth challenge. And simultaneously, when we compare ourselves to our regional peers, we are lagging far behind. So I think we are right at very opportune time where we can really sort of push the things forward. Considering the fact that this is a very complicated government structure, we have inherited again a complicated colonial structures, unlike many other countries, which at one point in time was considered to be our strength. But now I feel clinging with those old systems and colonial legacies is becoming a major challenge for us. So we have to really sort of unshackle these ropes and sort of move forward. So for that, we do not need to go on an incremental approach, rather than we should actually go for quantum leap or leapfrog, all those things. And that can only be possible through technology. So for us, I think what we are focusing is creating enabling environment for channelizing savings for capital formation, an environment both for creation of demand and distribution. Again, on the distribution side, I think this is the area where I believe that whenever we talk about FinTech, I think major or significant component which I've heard whenever I talk with the people in the country, and whenever even if we look globally, it is more focused. If you see the pie chart, it is more focused on payment systems and e-commerce and all of that. But I think capital market and insurance product and those things have relatively smaller share in the pie. But considering the fact that as other markets have graduated, because when the financial market started expanding, and then for a period of time, if you see, for example, United States of America, their mutual fund units industry is bigger than bank deposits. So as the industry graduate to next level, the things also reshape and change. So I personally think that same will happen on this FinTech side, where capital market related solutions and the other finer financial market products will actually take a bigger share of pie going forward. So that again provides a huge opportunity for the sector itself. So in terms of pushing FinTech firms, I think they need talent, they need demand, which will be created from both government and public sector. And then they need policy support. And in terms of capital, we have a lot of role on which I will actually throw shed a little bit of light going forward. In terms of our regulatory role, I'm very clear on that we need to have minimum intervention, and intervention where it is facilitative, and try to facilitate kosher businesses and try to create markets which are transparent and efficient. So, and let the market then take care of the businesses. So, so for us, the key drivers are formation of capital, and for that, whatever requisite regulatory changes are required in terms of facilitation. And third is, wherever any support from us is required, it should be timely and it should be efficient. So these are the key challenges for a regulator, either it is a fintech space or any other space. So the thing which to me is most exciting about fintech is its disruptive nature. I think because what we are doing, as I've explained you earlier, the size of our economy and what we are not able to achieve in the last many years, with this fintech development in terms of infrastructure around us and enabling environment, with providing it enabling environment, I feel we can do the things which we are dreaming for last many years now. So if we engage the right kind of players, provide the enabling environment, I think we can definitely increase the distribution side. We can we can actually do a lot of things which we are not able to actually have done previously. And simultaneously, I think the other thing which is very important, in addition to transparency, is improving the customer experience of financial markets, because it has always been a challenge in this industry that whenever capital market has grown, then there's always a boom-bust cycle in this industry. And boom-bust cycle is driven at times by our macroeconomic conditions, and at times by, I would call it lack of service, lack of transparency or whatnot at the level of our intermediaries. With technology coming in, I think, again, this is a great opportunity for us, that how we can use that in terms of meeting or crossing those hurdles. So, so now I will switch on to what we have done in terms of creation of a good ecosystem in this country. We started with one thing, which was a regulatory framework for startup and private companies. So when we met people in the fintech industry, there was a huge demand, and demands were related to actually three pillars or three types of regulators: one, tax regulator; second, central bank; and third, the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. So based on that, we actually created or proposed some regulatory and legislative amendments, and which were passed through in form of a ordinance, but now they are pending in form of a bill. The other thing which was next on our agenda was creating ease for venture capital, through which capital generation can be made. Then the third thing which we have done is testing of innovative solution through Sandbox. So first cohort, which was initiated by SECP, the application was submitted in March, by the end of March, and we have given approval for 6 such projects. Then simultaneously, we, on the capital formation side, we have done two other things. One is actually relaxing the regulation for the main board, which is our PSX, and secondly, creating an alternate market. So in terms of what we have done on the law change side, we have introduced a definition on startups, which actually never existed before, and that was done after detailed consultation with the fintech community. And then the other thing which we have done is on the private company side, that we have enabled private company, or we introduce or propose a change in company law under which private companies can buy back the shares, and simultaneously they can also offer employee stock options. So these were three major changes which we were introduced. They were passed on 30th April through ordinance, but ordinance unfortunately got lapsed. But now we are targeting it to be passed through the law, which is already in form of a bill which has gone to the Ministry of Finance and it will be presented to National Assembly for the final change in the law. So moving on to the private market. Actually, the minimum investment required, what we have done was that we have reduced capital for the private fund management company significantly to rupees 10 million. Then we actually allowed LLPs, limited liability partnership, to form or become private management companies, private fund management companies. Then we also there were certain challenges on the valuation on which we significantly relax our regulations. Then in terms of risk profiling of eligible investor, we revised and simplified the requirements. And finally, the minimum investment requirement of 3 million was eliminated from our regulations. Then moving on to regulatory sandbox. Under regulatory sandbox.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Just to remind you that we are running slightly over time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. So, considering time, I will quickly push through it. So, on the regulatory sandbox side, the first 6 projects on which we have provided our approval are digital insurance, digital platform for mutual funds, robo-advisory, P2P lending, and crowdfunding. So what will be done in all these projects said after 6 months, then we will review, and then whatever regulation change would be required will be made accordingly. Then there are certain law changes which would be also required. So we are already preparing a draft securities bill in which we will actually put an enabling clause to further facilitate the capital formation on that side. So then moving on to just to sort of briefly touch on the GEM board, which is Growth Enterprises Market, and the changes on the main board. So on the GEM board, what we have done is try to facilitate capital raising by general and medium by small and medium enterprises. So there's no profitability requirement over there. There's only PSX. There's a simplified application form. And only PSX approval, Pakistan Stock Exchange approval is required. No SECP approval is required over there. And it will actually allow growth companies to generate capital. Then on the main board, what major changes we have done is that previously there was a profitability requirement. So we have moved from quantitative requirements towards more disclosure requirements. So now actually, if the whole value chain is complete, so if our private markets are functioning, our ECF is functioning, our GEM boards are functioning, then our market can then create for unicorns and things like that. So another very important thing which I would like to share with you is the digital asset concept paper. We have shared with the market a digital asset concept paper, and I think in considering the market, and what we will actually do is in next 3 months we will do discussion and roundtable channel virtually, and we will come up with some concept, some regulation or some facilitative structure in the second quarter of next year. And we, as of now, I think the biggest would be biggest potential would be on the real estate side, commodity side, and government bonds. So finally, I will take a minute or two just to explain what we are doing internally in terms of technology. So we have started a technology innovation track, technology transformation program, which we have branded as LEAP, and which will actually mean quality end-to-end digitalization inclusive of interface to facilitate regulated markets, market participant and investor. And we are expecting in next about 18 to 24 months, we will be in a position where all our internal processes would be completely digitized. So we actually want to improve our customer experience, our regulatory experience significantly by the same digital digitization thing. So what we will do, we will keep on working and within overall umbrella and try to get benefit out of the disruptive capacity of this technology market. Thank you very much. I believe it will be useful and helpful for you. And we will keep on working for that. And we look forward to our sessions on digital assets. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Shauzab Ali. It's very useful and important for us to hear from individuals such as yourself. So we are really then able to align the other players in the market to see what the regulatory bodies are doing to facilitate whatever a lot of the private players are planning on doing. And it's reassuring to know that there is a long-term plan. I also like the fact that you have you echoed what Kulsum Lakhani said about how e-commerce has gone up during the COVID period. It's something unprecedented, but I think it's wonderful that Pakistan has been in a position to capitalize on the current lockdown situation, and going forward, things do look promising. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.